guys can see, just pulls so good. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're gonna be going over a Ford Focus RS, and other than the wheels on this car, everything is stock, so it should be pretty interesting compared to the other one that I recently reviewed. With all that being said, let's get straight into the video. I did forget to mention, I just recently purchased this RS. If you guys are wondering where this came from, this is mine. So if you want to see more content on this car, subscribe. But under the hood, we have a turbocharged 2.3 liter 4-cylinder that goes through a 6-speed manual transmission. Power outputs are 350 horsepower and then 350 pound-feet of torque, with fuel economy being 19 around town and then 25 on the highway. So let's go over the front end of the RS. First off, I love the lines here on the hood. Now the white paint kind of hides it a little bit. It still looks okay, but it doesn't look as good as it does on other colors. And then coming down below, we've got the projector bulb right there with the LED accent light, which I think looks really neat. And then you've got the fog lights down below with your RS logo right there in the front. And the whole front end looks super cool and aggressive. You kind of have this like grill mesh right here, which definitely adds to the aggression. And this bottom portion right here looks just like a Shelby GT 350. But other than that, that's the front end of the RS. Now coming around the side, like I said, this does have aftermarket wheels. So they're 19-inch wheels, and wrapped around them, they're 235mm tires on the front and over in the rear. If you're wondering, these are Ferrata wheels, and then it's got Pilot Super Sports. These are the summer tires. I also do have a set of winter tires with the car. I love the accenting with the Brembo brakes in blue, and then you just have regular Focus brakes there in the rear, but you still get a blue brake caliper, which looks nice. And then other than that, here is your full side view, which for some reason the camera's not picking it up. So like right, yeah, look how cool that is. Now popping here into the rear hatch, the storage space back here is actually really good. And underneath this, you get your whole fix-a-flat kit situation, all that kind of stuff. And you guys can see it just started kind of like very, very small hail. But anyways, you've got a cargo cover that's all built in. It's pretty easy to take out if you don't want to use it. And other than that, well, so yeah, finish things up with the rear. So first off, I love the spoiler there at the top. Definitely gives it a cool, aggressive rally car look. And then the LED light here definitely looks cool, but the rest of the light, not in love with it. And then you get your Focus and RS badge. And then you've got the diffuser down here at the bottom with the exhaust tips. Definitely another cool look. And I think the car overall looks pretty good from the rear end, other than the tail lights. Now coming to the door panel here in the rear, notice that you've got all the leather here with the blue stitching. Now this one has the base model seats, so you still get the leather here on the sides of the seats with the blue stitching, but the center is cloth instead of Alcantara, like you get in the RS2, so this one's just an RS1. But let's actually pop in and get out of the random hail here for a second. It's actually good here in the back in terms of headroom. Now the legroom is a little bit more cramped, and what are those? Other than that, you've got decent storage space right there, and that's all for the back of the Focus RS. Coming here to the door panel in the front, notice again, you've got all the leather here with the blue stitching that goes across, and then you've got a couple of the window controls, and then notice that you've got the door lock and unlock. And then coming to the front seats, these seats are really nice. So again, you've got the RS logo, you've got the cloth in the center with the blue stitching, and then notice you've got the Recaro logo. These seats hold you in place really nicely. Now, if you guys are wondering, I'm just under 180 pounds right now. I do have a little bit of a wider back, and I barely fit in these seats. Like, they're pretty much like hugging on my back really tight. So if you're any bigger than me, you probably won't fit in these seats comfortably. And then the bolsters do push against my thighs, but the benefit of that is you stay in place perfectly well. And then you've got your adjustments on the side of the seat. It's all manual as part of this RS1 package. 3-pedal layout, and then we've got our light controls just up there. Steering wheel adjustment is manual as well. If you guys are wondering, if you get the RS2, then you get a power adjustable seat. Here's the steering wheel in the Focus RS. So you've got the leather at the top and at the bottom with the blue stitching, and then you've got perforated leather here on the sides, so you get a little bit of a better grip with the steering. And then you get like your phone command, voice command controls, all that kind of stuff. Cruise control on the other side, controls for the center stack. This first stock there is for the turn signal, and then the other stock there is for the windshield wipers, and that's all for the steering wheel. Here's the gauge cluster here on the RS. Notice you've got the RPMs on the left and the speed on the right. You've got the blue outlining because, again, that's kind of the theme with the RS, is the blue. And then you do have that screen which shows you different bits of information. Now you can see right now On a 237 mile trip, I've been averaging about 18.4 miles per gallon, pretty much all city driving. And I mean, I'll be honest, I've been having a little bit of fun with the car. Now, if I pop in the trip one, this was the previous owner of the car, and they're averaging well, they're actually 23. It's gone down a little bit, but about 23 miles per gallon, and that's on 8,000 mile trip. So I mean, fuel economy on this car is actually pretty good for being such a sporty little hatchback. Now here's the center infotainment system. First off, let's pop it in reverse. You guys can see the backup camera, and you actually do get the zoom function right there. So you just have to press that and then it'll pop in. The trajectory lines do turn with the steering wheel. As for the infotainment system, this is Ford's older unit, but you can get a software update so you can get the nicer version. And then notice that you do have the Android Auto with it. Other than that, I really haven't used it all that much because I've been spending all my time driving, and so yeah, that's the infotainment system though. Now down below you've got your analog controls for the radio, and then you do have your dual zone climate controls with the car, which it's nice that they do give you dual zone climate in this. Some extra storage space right here, which is actually come in handy so far. 12 volts, and then this is the important stuff, well, part of it. So that's the auto stop start. If you can turn that off, you got the stability control, and then you have the drive mode select, which will pop up right here. And they've got 4 different drive modes. You've got your normal, your sport, your track, and then your drift. Now the drift actually sends like 70% of the torque and power to the rear and makes the steering really loose. I don't really like the normal mode whatsoever. It's really boring. I've actually been driving it in track mode, but what I've been doing is I put it in track mode and then I put the suspension over into the soft setting, and I just love how it feels. I believe the track mode's like 50-50 split. The car just feels perfect in that mode. That's when I prefer to drive it in, but in today's video, I'll drive it in the normal, the sport, and then the track. We aren't gonna be doing in drift mode because I'm not gonna be doing any drifting, and yeah, I don't really care for the loose steering. Now, before we go over the shifter, obviously I know people are going to comment, well, of course the steering is loose, that's going to be easier for drifting. Yeah, I get it. Anyways, with the shifter, it's you pull up and then go over for reverse. The shifter is really notchy. I definitely like the feel of the gate. I just don't like the head of the shifter, so I'm definitely going to be replacing this with something aftermarket just so it's a nicer piece to grab. And same thing with the steering wheel. I just don't necessarily, it's okay, but I feel like I'd want something a little bit different feel-wise with the steering wheel. So probably steering wheel and shifter are going to be the first things I replace on the car, so the points that I touch the most are going to feel nicer. And then you notice you got some cup holders here with the TRX keys. And then you've got the e-brake right here with some blue stitching, more blue stitching on the center console, which pretty normal. And then I got my stuff in the glove box, so I'm not going to open that up, but it's got a normal glove box. And then finishing things up top, this one doesn't have a sunroof, which I'm glad about. I would never use it, and it just adds weight to the top of it. But you can get it as an option. So this is the original window sticker for the Focus RS. You can see mine's a 2017. And again, it shows you all the specs and everything. I guess this is called Frozen White. But most importantly, you can see the original MSRP is $38,390. Now, if you go and take a look on the used market right now and look up used Focus RSs, if you're looking at ones that have clean title, not salvage title, most of them are going to be over $30,000. If it's a 2018 with low miles, chances are it's going to be priced pretty close to $40,000 or above $40,000. Like, these cars have lost a little bit of value depending on the year and the mileage and condition, but for the most part, if you keep your car in good condition and if you don't drive it a ton, then it's going to be pretty much the same price as brand new, which is crazy, but that's the market right now in the RSs. And let's take it out and see how it drives. Well, let's talk about visibility before we set off here in the Focus RS. So first off, visibility of the hood, it's really easy to see out of it because it's so short and small and everything. Visibility through both the mirrors is actually really good. It doesn't have blind spot monitoring, but I haven't really felt like I've needed it. And then here's throughout the rest of the rear, which is pretty normal for a hatchback. And like I said, we're starting off in normal mode, so brake down, first gear, let's set off. Of course, with my luck, it decides to rain when, or not rain, it's kind of like hailing when I decide to review this car. But anyways, we're in the normal mode right now, and like I said, I don't drive this in normal mode whatsoever. I just don't like the feeling of the normal mode. The steering just feels way too light for my preference, which, I mean, I guess that's going to give you kind of more of a luxurious driving experience and all that, but I just don't like the feeling of it. And obviously it's also quieter when you're in the normal mode versus when you're in the track mode, because it kind of has the baffles and everything all closed off and all that, so you don't get the crazy pops and bangs out the exhaust, which you guys heard that in the exhaust clip. Sounds fantastic. But yeah, that's why I don't like the normal mode. The suspension on this car, even in normal mode, is pretty stiff. Now let's pop it over into the sport mode. So what it's going to do is it's going to kind of make things a little bit more aggressive with the car. Man, it is it is coming down quite a bit. Now the sport mode's better, but it still has the traction control on, and that's why I don't love the sport mode compared to the track mode. And so it does kind of cut power if you slip out, but you do get the cool pops and bangs out the exhaust, which sound absolutely fantastic. And now that we've driven in both those modes, we got to drive my favorite mode, which is track mode. So like I said, I go into track mode, and then I put the suspension over into the soft setting, and I'll get back with you guys once this light is over. So now that we are kind of on this new road here, you guys can see the track mode, which this is definitely my favorite mode out of all of them. Now I'm taking this a little bit slow because I'm on summer tires right now, and it is 37 degrees outside, so don't want to end up in the side of the road. Pull a Mustang, right? But you guys can see the acceleration's really smooth. It's really easy to rev match downshift. Like, just listen. It's very easy to rev match downshift. I'll get you guys back in a second. So now that we're back a little bit further along another road, you guys can see it just pulls so good. And then when you take it around corners, you get so much grip, so much confidence with it. It's just the perfect amount. And of course it stops snowing as soon as we get closer to the canyon. And like I said, rev match downshifting is very easy. It's very smooth. The exhaust, I love the pops out of the back that the Focus RS makes. Definitely a super nice sound, and it definitely kind of has like a Subaru type sound to it, which is definitely exciting, if you ask me. Like I said, very easy. It's not as easy to rev match downshift as like an STI. Definitely easier than a WRX. I mean, maybe it's about the same as the WRX from my, if my memory serves me right. But it's not as easy to rev match downshift as an STI. The STI is definitely a little bit more blippable with the throttle, but this is a higher speed road, so it's quick. I mean, it is definitely quick for being a little four-banger hatchback, and that's one of the reasons why obviously I got it, is because of the speed. I love the pops out of the back, and this is stock too, which is definitely exciting. But you guys can see here, even at higher speed right here, and with the RPMs higher, again, super easy to rev match downshift. It just slipped a little bit there. It's the summer tires. But yeah, definitely a fun car. So this right here is pretty much from a dig with the car. Like, it's quick. It is very quick. And again, you do get a little bit of wheel spin, but I think that's mostly just because of the temperature outside and the fact that the weather is kind of taking a turn for the worse. If it was warmer outside, then I don't think we'd be getting nearly as much wheel spin as we are getting right now. So this is a little passing zone right here. I love the pops so much out of the back, but you guys can see it has tons of passing power. Like, passing is not an issue whatsoever with the car. And again, my favorite thing with this car is just to go through the gears. Like, I literally upshift just so that I can downshift. even when it's not, you know, the most fuel economy conscious thing, and of course the window's fogging up a ton, I still do it because it's fun and it's exciting in the Focus RS. The shifter actuation, everything is just great with this car. Now obviously that's not going to get you the best fuel economy and all that, so if you want to get better fuel economy, well, again, it's a 6-speed manual, so you've got that option. Now I will be doing a full kind of like canyon review in the future with this car, because I think that's a big reason why a lot of people buy cars like this, right? The STI, Focus RS, all that. Yes, to take it on the track, but I think more reasonable driving with this is probably up and down a canyon, is why a lot of people will get this. And so what I want to do is I want to do a canyon drive with the car. I'll do kind of like a canyon POV, and we'll give my impressions on how it actually drives up and down a canyon. But you guys can see, like, I'm not even getting close to pushing the car from a grip perspective, and it's 37 degrees outside, the roads are wet, and we have summer tires on, and it grips so well. So you guys can imagine, in good conditions, this thing's pretty much on rails. Definitely one of the reasons why I bought it. It is lower to the ground though, so when you go through things like that, you definitely have to take it slow. Is this actually worth the money? Should you actually get a Focus RS, or is it overpriced at this point? Yes, it's expensive, but it's very, very unique. They don't make them anymore, obviously, and so there's not that many on the market. So if you want something that's a little bit more unique, then the Focus RS is gonna be the one to go for. Chances are, I mean, you'll see some out there, but you won't see nearly as many as you see with the STIs. And the Civic Type Rs are still pretty rare because dealer gouging has made it so it's unaffordable for enthusiasts. But it's going to get to the point where there's going to be more Civic Type Rs than there are Focus RSs out there, just because they still make the Civic Type R. So you got that uniqueness factor, and then you have the unique driving factor. So I feel like this drives kind of in between the WRX and the Civic Type R, but then it's also unique in its own way. So it's definitely faster than both of those cars. It has more power. That being said, it's got unequal length headers, and so it has kind of like a Subaru-ish sound to it, but it's still an inline four. So then you get like kind of an in-between sound with the engine. And then in terms of the blippability, it's way more blippable than the Civic Type R. This engine's just a little bit more rev happy, which is definitely a positive. But it's not as blippable as the STI, so again, it's kind of in the middle. And then the shifter feel, the Civic Type R definitely has the best shifter feel. The STI, I feel like this feels pretty similar to an STI shifter. I might prefer the STI shifter over this just slightly, but I mean, shifter feel, again, it's almost like I wouldn't say it's in between, it's kind of its own unique thing with the shifter feel. And then with the steering, this is where it really feels in between. So the STI, you don't get as much steering feel, but you get a decent amount. This, you kind of get in between. The Civic Type R, you definitely get the most steering feel with it. And so again, it's kind of like in between. So what I'd have to say is, if you're able to, I would drive all three. And if you like this one, it's definitely worth it. It's a car that if you buy it right, you can drive for free. And so I think that definitely lends to, you know, a fun driving experience, because then you can go, oh, well, I'm having fun with this car, but it's also not costing me money in depreciation like a lot of cars will. And I'm kind of going around a circle now here because I want to stay off the main road. But yeah, it's definitely awesome. I think it's worth the money because of the uniqueness and because of the low build number and all that kind of stuff. But I can understand that someone would buy a new Civic Type R or an STI over this, because you can get those brand new for similar money to what this is going for used. Well, not the Civic Type R, because dealerships are all asking 10 grand plus over MSRP. But on an STI, you could get a new STI for the same price as this. So I guess if you wanted a full warranty and all that, I can see that. So it just depends on what you're looking for, but I don't know. I love this car, and I mean, I obviously bought this over those two, and I'll get some comparison videos in the near future, hopefully, so that I can kind of explain myself a little bit better. Now, that's going to sum things up for our video on this 2017 Ford Focus RS. Well, actually, my 2017 Ford Focus RS. But anyways, I'll see all of you in the next video.